Here we have a drone, and let's look at the constituent parts. So a single held note playing a 3 oscillator patch from Diva. Now if we just split it down to its constituent parts here, we'll take the chorus and the delay off, which had a subtle amount of sort of extra stereo-ness and width to the sound. We've got a single oscillator here, that's a sawtooth wave. Second oscillator, detuned slightly against the first, and also with a bit of tuning modulation, so a bit of very subtle vibrato coming from that LFO1 there. Then a third oscillator, this is a square wave, which is also detuned slightly in comparison to the first, but also it's got this shape modulation from LFO2, which is modulating the shape of that square wave. That's pulse width modulation. You can hear it there on its own. Now at the moment we've got this sound is actually stacked, so there's 4 similar versions of the sound. Let's drop it back down to just 1. Just coming out the right speaker there. There's 2. Now 4. All playing at the same time. Now they've all got a slight amount of this detune. So basically this is like a unison mode, a slight amount of detune there, and this voice drift, which has this very subtle changing pitch to each of the oscillators there. And finally we've got automation here, which is actually controlling the mod wheel amount, and it actually, if we route it through, if we have a look here, you can see if we just push that cutoff up, that's what it sounds like with the cutoff pushed right up. We're going into a 24 dB per octave low pass filter with a bit of resonance, and it's slowly rising up, so just getting that very, very slow rise there. Now the second part of this is, if we did need to unmute this element, this is actually a series of piano notes with a sustain pedal. Just unmute the correct channel here, and it's actually coming from sample tank. So what we're doing is we're playing this piano sound. It's just basically a grand piano, and we're just taking that. That's quite nice on its own, but it's obviously, we want to create something that's a bit more sort of ambient and will fit with our drone. So we're going to use Time Freezer. Press that freeze button whilst the piano is being sustained, and it freezes the sound there. And then we can do interesting things like pitch it up, play around with the filter built into Time Freezer, tune it down, and it just basically freezes that sound in a sort of sustained state. So it's quite a nice effect to use as a way of just creating these tones, these sustained tones. Now what I've done here is actually, let's just mute that for the moment, actually bounced it out. It had one which is actually up an octave and one version which is down an octave from the original. And literally just bounced it out for the duration of the drone. Added some delay with modulation, so we've got this ping pong delay, so the delay times are different left and right. Modulation, which has a bit of modulation of the delay times, and you can hear that slight pitching, that chorusing effect that comes in through there. And we push the frequency, the low frequency and high frequency filters are actually on the feedback loop of the delay, and the feedback is pushed up. And done the same thing for this -12, so the octave down version, and we combine the two together. And that works nicely with our original low drone. We'll come back to all of these elements together later. Then unusual thing here. Future music. Okay, so that's the audio there. When I play it, it's not me saying that right now. Hello, future music. So there we go. That rather slightly robotic voice of mine saying hello, future music. And what we've done here is we're using isotope iris, which is, I guess it's like a form of sampler really, but it allows you to choose elements of the audio spectrum from that sample to actually use, and it will loop those in all kinds of different ways. So what I've done is selected these different parts in terms of time and frequency, and you can see it scanning backwards and forwards through those different parts of the sound. And then we can play different notes. It then goes through to a master filter and master effects. It's got a bandpass filter on. If we take that off, it's quite a muffled kind of tone there. Then distortion, chorus, delay, and reverb. Hello, future music. So I don't want to play that. Let's play this one. There we go. Let's bring the level up as well. I mean, you'll see also below this track, there's also volume automation. Let's push it up. So it's quite an interesting effect there. Then we also have this Valhalla shimmer effect on it. There's the volume automation. You can hear a bit better here. And Valhalla shimmer is an intriguing effect. It's a reverb and delay and also pitch shifter. A technique made famous by Brian Eno and Dan Lanois and their production of various things, including U2 albums back in the early mid-1980s. And it just creates this lovely halo on top of things. You can hear that octave coming through there. There's a bit of modulation on it, low cut and high cut, so you don't get too much muddiness on that effect. So that's our isotope iris layer. Then we've also got shortwave radio. Now this you can use if you've got a shortwave radio. They're very cheap to buy. Handheld shortwave radios. You just can record it straight into your audio workstation. Or you can use, if you just Google shortwave radio web or search for it on the internet, then you'll find there are actually some internet enabled shortwave radio stations, and you can just tune in via the browser. We then route this through to a Minimoog style filter, so a 24 dB per octave filter, rolling off the top end, making it a bit more muffled, and we're running into a reverb that slowly opens up the filter. There we go. It's just building slowly throughout. And then the final layer, we use the more distorted capabilities of frequency modulation synthesis, FM synthesis, as introduced by, or certainly commercially by Yamaha in the early 1980s with the DX7 and so on. We've got a real cluster of notes here, so not really aiming for anything overly or obviously tuneful as such, and then using the mod wheel to control some of the parameters there. So now we've got our various elements all together, we can play them all together. Let's unmute the various bits that we've got and play it. And the only thing I'm going to add here is this final bit of processing, which is using a tape emulation plugin. And it's one that has, or emulates, the wow and flutter, these pitch changes that you get from a tape machine. Now we're going to make it sound like a bad tape machine by ensuring that the wow and flutter is on. We push that wow up, and you can hear that pitching going on there, and the flutter is the faster rate pitching. And then we can also add a bit of noise, a bit of hiss in there as well. And also drop the tape speed down, makes it much more lo-fi. It's just one of the ways in which you can actually make it sort of round it off and bring it all together. The idea with drones, obviously, it's not all about supreme high fidelity. And now if we play it from the top, this is what we get. And there we have our finished drone.